dear SAP colleagues and SAP friends. In today's video, I would like to embark on the second part of the story of SAP. For those of you who are interested in the whole story, you can watch also part 1, where we cover the period from 1972 till 1980. And this is, well, actually, for me, the most important period, because in this period, the company has been established, and in this period, the company has obtained its first customers, which were actually very big already 50 years ago, and most of the most important companies have decided to work with SAP. Most of the biggest companies from different industries they decided to work with SAP in order to make something very useful, to make systems which are covering the business processes. And now in the second part, we'll see how this develops. So once again, for those of you who are interested in the whole story, just watch first part 1, then part 2, in order to be able to build your own vision, so to say, your own decision making on the whole story of SAP, because as I'm saying quite often, SAP for the winners. Okay. Well, there is some more text once again on the slides, but I hope it would be interesting for you, because the story is a story, and it's very, very interesting, and there are some details. That's why I decided to put so much text on the slides. You'll be able to stop, of course, the video and look after what is written, try to understand it better, try to build your own opinion. This series of videos about the story of SAP, they have the target really to show what SAP is and how SAP has started. Okay, well, the first thing that I would like to mention is that real time in this second period from 1981 to 1990, real time touches more of the businesses. Well, basically more of the businesses, more of the industries, they see that there is the need for real-time computing, not in the sense that we are using this word nowadays, that everything happens at the microsecond, but in the sense that the people which are working with the systems from the different industries should be able to execute programs, and these programs should return results in more or less seconds or minutes. Before this was days in order to be able to compute this. And that is why SAP R2 was, so to say, established as a second pillar, as a second version of the real-time system of SAP. And what SAP has done in this period, they have succeeded to package the mainframe software application processes and the data from these processes in order the customers to be able to integrate it in one whole thing, and all the businesses to be able to establish a common system on which the functions were built. Okay? And now we'll start with year after year discussing how the things has developed from SAP for SAP. And in 1981, R2 was launched, and it quickly achieved the same high level of stability as its predecessor. Well, you'll see why this was so. In the same year, SAP makes its first appearance at the System IT trade show in Munich, Germany. For those of you who don't know, Systems was an information and telecommunication trade fair, and it was held annually in Munich. The organizer was Messe Munich GmbH, first organized in 1969. Systems was the world's oldest IT trade fair, together with Milan SMAU. And for those of you who don't know what SMAU is the most structured Italian meeting and matching platform dedicated to innovation and startup. And this platform exists nowadays as well. And this platform is divided into two main things: the annual roadshow and an international event in Milan. But what is actually important is that this show has nowadays some branches, sub-branches in different cities as well. And the important thing is that actually in this small event there are 50,000 companies from all sectors which are involved in this event, and SAP works with these customers, with some of them, with the most of the most important, so to say, works to add production planning and control module to its portfolio. Okay, in 1982 was the 10th anniversary of SAP. What a beautiful time for the people who built it. 10 years of something so successful and something so big. You should imagine what is to be part of it nowadays, 50 or 40 years after this, 50 years after the establishment. But however, the most important thing is that by that time more than 250 companies in Austria, Germany, Switzerland deployed SAP software already. 250 companies, very big companies, almost all of them. Important is that 10 years after the establishment of the company and some more years and some years after the building of the first building of the company, SAP has outgrown its office space again, and the company started considering and constructing an extension which was planned in record time. More important, SAP generated in 1982 24 million Deutsche Mark, which is roughly with inflation 28 million nowadays, which is a lot of money for this company, I guess. By that time there were 100 employees working for them, so it's hard to say whether this was profitable business by that time, but I would definitely guess that this was this way. What is more important is that 96% of the customers by that time has used SAP to manage their business process already. Okay, it is quite considerable. Okay, then the story continues. In 1983, SAP embarks on a third extension office in order to be able to accommodate the project and its constant growing stream of new recruits, because they haven't stopped to recruit new people. And the same year, the people increased by 25% from 100 to 125, and the revenue jumped to 41 million Deutsche Mark, which is 70% increase in revenue year over year. It is, well, I would say just crazy what they've done by that time already. And however, something important happened the same year as well, which is quite significant for the company nowadays as well. The German technology company Heraeus becomes the first customer to install SAP's new module for production planning and control. For those of you who don't know, some information about Heraeus. Heraeus is a German technology group founded in Hanau in 1851. Well, almost 200 years old company. It is tremendous. It is huge. It is with very deep roots, so to say. Nowadays, this company is working, I think, in almost all industries, with materials, with electronics, with precious materials, if you wish, with almost everything. Okay, we continue. In 1984, the Swiss town of Biel becomes home to SAP's first international subsidiary. It was called Schweiz AG, SAP, and to SAP International AG, the hub from which SAP conducts its international business. Well, maybe there was a reason behind this decision to go into Switzerland and establish a subsidiary, but we are not going to discuss this. Just a hint, it may be because of the bank sector by that time in Switzerland, but also because of the stability of the company and maybe some more perspectives which SAP has told very thoroughly. I'm pretty sure about this. In the same year, SAP hires 48 new employees. I don't want to talk about year-over-year increases and growth, because this is just becoming, how should I say, is becoming a trend to be bigger and bigger. And what is more important but this time is that actually there was a huge development, a huge demand for development resources for the new modules for RK, cost accounting, PPS, production planning and control, and RP, human resources. And the same year, SAP, at the end of the year, SAP had 163 employees, which generated approximately 48 million Deutsche Mark in revenue. The story continues once again. In 1985, SAP's data center was equipped with 4 servers, 3 from IBM and 1 from Siemens. Well, you should not imagine yourself a server as a server is looking nowadays. It's totally different thing. It is like a building. It was like a building, because I've been reading and learning about these things in my life, and I haven't put here a picture of such a server, but you can look after it, the servers by that time, how they were looking and how powerful they were. Actually, they were not powerful in comparison to the ones today, and especially if we like to compare the ratio size to power. This is something which we should not do, and nobody should do, because this is again the reason why the Moore's law has become the reality, so to say. Okay. What is more important is that the company software had access by that time to a total of 64 megabytes of main memory. Yeah, you know how it is nowadays. For those of you who are interested in the tech, in the hardware, this is nothing. But what is more important is that by the same year, 5 employees from Waldorf moved to the new office in Switzerland and began supporting the company's international business. Well, this was actually, I think, a very big decision, because you know, you need, if you want to change the direction of the company, you need to set resources for this. You need to set aside some of the best people to work on something, and this is a big decision. But important is as well that by the end of 1985, more than 250 people worked at SAP, and their revenue hit 61 million Deutsche Mark, around 70 million nowadays. And one more step that they made is Quality Assurance Committee was set up to bolster the stability of SAP software. It's important that they knew that quality is very important by that time as well. And what I can tell you from my experience, SAP provides quality, provides stability, provides people as well to serve you if you have some problem. But of course, this comes with its price, and that's why the biggest companies are working with SAP. Okay, 1986. The year was again a beautiful one for SAP, I think. SAP and its software exhibited CeBIT, the world's largest computer trade show, for the first time. The same year, SAP has hit the threshold of 100 million in revenue, and something more important actually happened this year. SAP has realized that the introduction of new financial reporting standards would bring in around new 100 orders for its asset accounting software. And they realized, and they actually done this, but this was because of the possibility of the capability of SAP to look into the future and to understand that the international financial reporting standards is something quite important, because as you may know, I guess, the accounting nowadays for multinational companies is something which is not easy. It is a very hard task for almost all of them. Well, the story continues once again. In 1987, SAP broke ground on its new training center in Waldorf. Meanwhile, construction continues at the company's main offices, now in the 5th phase of expansion. At this point, I would like to tell you something which I think I would like to show you some of my experience in the way that I'm able here. If a company wants to build very solid and stable workforce with people who are creative and thoughtful and good human beings to one another and having healthy lives, they have to invest in them. They have to build such training centers with capabilities of people feeling free. For instance, if you see there was a gym center, there were pools, there was I think a spa center in this training center, and the people were able to feel free to enjoy this work for SAP and to make more for SAP. Okay, IBM's latest generation of servers in the same year, 1987, IBM's latest generation of servers made SAP software available to SME customers. Quite important, because I've been saying that SAP is working with the biggest companies, but this is not true to the utmost extent. SAP is working as well with the SME companies, with the small and medium enterprises, and the same year SAP established SAP Consulting to support new customers. Well, this is like 36 years ago, SAP has established SAP Consulting. They knew what they do, right? I think this is pretty clear. Well, the same year, SAP made its first foray into the non-German speaking markets, setting up subsidiaries in France, the Netherlands, Spain, and the United Kingdom, and two new local offices opened, one in Hamburg to support customers in the northern Germany, and the second in Munich to serve those in the south of the country. By the end of the year, SAP had more than 500 employees and has generated 152 million Deutsche Mark in revenue. The drive for standardization in software production and the launch of the IBM System Application Architecture, SAA, provided the impetus for SAP to begin developing the new platform-enabled generation of software SAP R3. The story continues with some very important facts on this slide. In 1988, SAP becomes SAP AG, which is Aktiengesellschaft in German, and became publicly traded company. This is something very important because for those of you who know why the stock exchange is existing, well, basically the stock exchange is existing for the companies to be able to raise capital. Yes, of course, there is speculation nowadays, there is this short-term volatility if you want to invest and make fast profits, but the biggest companies do not really care. I think most of them, they do not really care about the speculation part. They care about long-term raising capitals and investing and reinvesting the money in the business so that the customers of, if you wish to call them, not only from the products of the company but on the stock exchange market, believe in the company and what they do. In October 1988, it was listed on the Frankfurt and Stuttgart exchanges, issuing 1.2 million bearer shares at the price of 750 million Deutsche Mark. Back in Waldorf, the company opens its international training center, which was built the previous year, and which also had, as I said, a gym for the employees and more activities where the people were able to train there, but not only the mind, as well the body and the people to be, so to say, the workforce to be satisfied. The people number by that year 950, the employees, generating an annual revenue of 245 million in Deutsche Mark. Okay, Dow Chemicals becomes SAP's 1000th customer, and meanwhile SAP began developing Ariba, the billing and administration system for utility companies. The same year, SAP opened subsidiaries in Denmark, Italy, Sweden and the United States. Entering the US market will prove pivotal, will be key to the company's long-term success, and this is true. This became the reality, because the US markets, the US companies has also embarked on using SAP's product, SAP's product. This is the last slide. There's a lot of information, but again quite important. the first thing which happened, so to say, in 1989 was that SAP's data, which was the technical layer for all the other things to happen, the SAP's data center housed now servers from many different companies, the most important ones, from IBM, Siemens, DEC, and Hewlett-Packard, and provided 1,224 megabytes of memory. Again, compared to nowadays, this is nothing. But by that time, we should mention the functionality of the programs, the functionality of what the programs were able was not that complex. And this was enough, well, this capacity of memory by that time. The same year, SAP launched a new, more user-friendly interface for SAP R2 and new tools such as the ABAP 4 programming environment. Well, I should mention at this point that ABAP has developed a lot in the last 10, 20 and 30 years especially. I'm an ABAP developer. I work with ABAP every day, and ABAP now is, in my opinion, a beautiful language which is connected to the backend very well, and you are able to, there's so much functionality, you are able to do so beautiful things for the different departments in a company. But we should mention, by that time, almost which is like 25, 30, 35 years ago, ABAP was a very simple language because of the fact that the functionality of the businesses, the needs of the businesses weren't that complex. The two things have a very coherent relationship, and they grow together. Okay? Okay. The same year, SAP AG, International AG, was established in Switzerland, and it was responsible for 12 international subsidiaries, including those in Asia, Singapore, Australia, and Canada. By that time, there were already 1,400 employees operating in 15 countries and generating close to 370 million in revenue. In its first full year of stock exchange, SAP was named by that year Company of the Year by Germany's Manager magazine. I think this is pretty clear that SAP is, well, from those information that we learn now with you, you can see that SAP has done so much right steps in the right direction. How you should not name this company the Company of the Year? This is a good question. SAP R3 began to take shape the same year. It was designed to run on 4 Unix systems from different vendors, and SAP has invested by that time 85 million, 33% of its revenue by that time, in research and development alone. Again, something very important. If a company, small, big, it doesn't matter, if a person wants to grow, what they should do? They should invest in knowledge, in assets, and in experience, maybe, I don't know. But definitely, if you want to grow, if you want to become, for instance, a very good YouTuber, if you want to grow your YouTube channel, you gotta invest in some tech for this. If you want to become a very good worker, in an international worker, you should invest in learning languages. This comes at its cost. If you want to do it fast with good teachers, it costs some money. Basically, SAP knew this. There were people smart enough to do this, to invest 33% of their revenue and to become what they are nowadays. The first SAP industry solution had also been developed by the same year, 1989, for utilities, and it goes live at the pilot customer in Germany. But what is more important is what happened in 1990, because this SAP was again desperately short of its spaces and invested 135 million in its construction of sales and development center, known initially as the Entwicklungs- und Vertriebszentrum, and now known as WDF01. By the end of the year, SAP had already 1,700 employees, which generated revenues in excess of 500 million Deutsche Marks, which is around 580 million nowadays, I guess, with inflation covered. Well, what else has happened? The same year, SAP Aktiengesellschaft has decided to increase its capital stock to 85 million by issuing preferred shares, and furthermore decided to plow 110 million of these additional funds into advancing the SAP R2 system and the new SAP R3 system. Prototypes of the R3 financial accounting and material management modules were already complete. However, the most important thing, in my opinion, was something different in this year, and this was the fact that East and West Germany united, their economies and currencies merged, and SAP expanded eastwards successfully. Teaming up with Siemens Nixdorf and Robotron, it established a joint venture SRS in Dresden and opened a local office in Berlin. What does this show us? Well, I'm not really sure whether this is true, but in my opinion, this has been the hardest time for SAP for their lifespan, so to say, of the company. Because can you imagine what a insecure place would have been Germany by that time? It would have definitely been a place where the people, the owners of the companies who are not sure what will happen, whether this whole thing would collapse or not. And what is more important is that SAP has succeeded, has gone successfully through these hard moments, and has established the most important part here, a very, very solid base for the future partnerships because of the good partnerships that they have built by that time. So guys, I would like to thank you for your attention. If you have some questions, if you have some comments, if you have some feedback, please do not hesitate to write this down to me in the comments. And if you like the video, once again, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and all the best, friends. Stay tuned till next time.